Joining us live is Wyatt Roy. You'll know him as the former federal LNP Innovation Minister. He's also a board member of the Tech Council. Appreciate your time. Are we being overly optimistic here in Australia to think that we could become the new Silicon Valley?
Absolutely not. I think, Ash, what we've seen in the last 5 to 10 years is the technology sector in Australia has absolutely boomed. It's now, if you take it as its own sector, the third largest contributor to GDP. There's over 860,000 Australians already working in the sector. And what we've really shown is that we can be world leaders in this space. I think we should be incredibly ambitious as a nation, build on that success. And it's exciting to see the Tech Council come together to help have that conversation. I mean, it's interesting from an Australian perspective, the contribution that this sector makes to the economy is not just, inner city trendy types working in the tech sector in inner Sydney and Melbourne. What we see is this is creating prosperity and jobs across all of Australia, out in the suburbs. I'm here in southeast Queensland and we're seeing huge growth in the tech sector here. I was just at a business called Go One in Logan, which is employing 90 new people and has employed hundreds of people in the last few years as it's grown. So, we've just been cheering on our athletes in Tokyo for their success. I think we should be cheering on our Aussie tech sector for what it's contributing to the Australian economy and absolutely keep aiming to be world leaders in this space.
I know for many years there was a real worry that there was a real brain drain of our top sort of tech talent heading overseas to places like Silicon Valley, for example. Has that stopped now? How do you think we can incentivise our young, smart people to stay here? I mean, obviously in the middle of a pandemic that might help on that front, but we really need to grow that sort of local talent, don't we?
We do, you're absolutely right. But I think sometimes we mischaracterise what was actually happening there. I don't always see it as a brain drain of young Aussies going to Silicon Valley. It's actually, in many cases, young Aussies who would go to a place like Silicon Valley or Tel Aviv or Singapore. They would grow a global business. They would get access to new markets. They would learn a new skill set. And what we're seeing now is so many of them coming back to Australia and contributing to the Australian economy, but from a global business. And if you look at the membership of the Tech Council of Australia, their ambition is not to have a big business in Australia. It's to have an Australian business that is a massive global one. So I think that is probably the more accurate representation of what has been happening. But to your point, we have so much going for us. We are a lifestyle superpower. We've had this success for the last 5 or 10 years in the sector. We are attracting investment from across the globe. And this really is one of the best places in the world to start and grow a technology business that sells to the world. And I think we can build on that. And I think the Tech Council has an important role to play in working collaboratively with the government on how we can ensure that we're setting up the right skill sets, we're creating opportunities for Australians to start and grow these businesses here. And I've been really excited about the engagement from the government on creating that long-term vision and roadmap. And I think we can do it.
Well, look, there's obviously a really good story to tell about the tech sector and innovation in this country, which is great to hear. But there has been a suggestion that part of this new council's aim is to counter tech lash. What is tech lash for those of us who aren't familiar with the term, and why is it such a problem?
I wasn't really quite sure what tech lash was either, so if you can help fill me in, Ash, that would be good. But I think, maybe what has been happening is the way that everyday Australians interact with technology has changed, and the way that we perceive the tech sector in many ways has changed. So what's interesting is, as this sector has grown, if you compare, say, for example, Afterpay, which had the largest corporate deal in Australian history recently, it was a company that was only 7 years old. It was founded by 2 people who literally met when they were taking the bins out and created this company. Now, if you compare that to another corporate deal in Australian history, something in the banking sector or something in the mining sector, you're dealing with companies that were perhaps over 100 years old, and the way that they engage with the community and the way that they engage with the government is quite different. So as a highly successful, fast-growing industry, but one that is relatively new, I think the Tech Council has a great opportunity to have a conversation with the entire Australian community, not just the government, about what does this actually mean in our everyday lives, because this is creating opportunities in every corner of the country. If you look at it now, 1 in 16 Australians now work in the tech sector. There are more people working in the tech sector than there are hairdressers and plumbers. So this has been something that has sort of gone from a inner Sydney, perhaps Canberra-based conversation to one that's happening in the suburbs all over Australia, and one that's happening at the dinner tables about what sort of country do you want to grow up in. And I think that's really what the role of the Tech Council is to facilitate that national conversation.
Finally, Wyatt, I mean, I remember you from Canberra days. A lot of our viewers will best know you as a politician, one of the country's youngest politicians, of course. Are you missing it at all? Are you wishing you're involved in the business of government during these strange times, or is politics done and dusted for you?
Look, I loved my time in politics, and I'm really proud of what we achieved, and you know, certainly focusing on the tech space. I mean, we've seen what's happened in the 5 or so years since I've left Parliament, so I'm really proud of that. But I've got to tell you, I mean, I don't think there's a huge amount of love for politicians out in any part of the world, and I've really enjoyed creating a new life in the private sector, and frankly, learning a new skill set, a business skill set. That has been an amazing experience and really fulfilling for me, and I'm very happy. I mean, this is probably the happiest I've ever been in my life, but not to say anything against a career in politics, but at this stage of my life, to be at this part of my career is, I couldn't be luckier, and I'm really grateful to work with incredible people in the private sector.
Good to hear. Wyatt Roy, best of luck with it. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you.